right, hello and welcome to the Grimm Times Podcast, episode 17. This one, as promised before, is going to be a lighthearted episode. I think we've covered enough heavy topics for the last 3 or 4 episodes. So this time, we're going to talk about Dragon Ball Z. I don't know how many Dragon Ball Z fans we have out there. I'm definitely going to promote this episode to you guys, because I know you'll appreciate this. So, I'm joined once again by Carl Studdard, and we are going to. I think we'll start off talking about the Saiyan saga. Really, let's start talking about where everything got started. Really, I mean, aside from Dragon Ball, the original series.
Right.
I actually have never watched all of Dragon Ball all the way through. Have you?
No, not all of it. Some of it, honestly, even being a Dragon Ball Z fan, bores me a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough to watch.
Yeah.
Just like the beginning of GT, you actually mentioned this a while back. How the beginning of GT, where they're traveling through space and Goku's a kid again and all that, it's just kind of hard to watch. I mean, hard to stay involved with anyway. But yeah, so let's talk about some of the memories. When I first started watching Dragon Ball Z, let's talk about. I personally started watching it on Cartoon Network on Toonami. One time, I think it came home from school and Toonami was on, and I always watch Cartoon Network, but I just happened to have my first experience with anime through Toonami. So I would love to thank the Cartoon Network for that because that was back before Cartoon Network started sucking. Because now, if you look at the stuff that they show, it's crap. I mean, that's not even coming from an old person. I mean, that's just the truth. This Adventure Time show that they have, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
many people like it too, but I just find it, you know,
yeah, Christy even hates it. She's sitting in the back here, and her brother watches it, I think. But yeah, it is just I don't know. The artwork has really devolved, in my opinion. But anyway, I found Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, and it was during the Android Saga, and it was an all right time to come in. The very first episode, I still remember it to this day. The very first episode I ever saw was when Goku and Piccolo and the gang they are flying above the trees looking for Doctor Gero's hideout and trying to find the androids. But yeah, what was your first? Do you remember your first episode or how you found the show?
actually, I do. It was when it was in this Frieza Saga, I believe, and it's when Goku had just arrived on planet Namek, and he was kicking the crap out of the Ginyu Force, and that's where I remember starting my DBZ adventure.
Huh? Yeah, those were good times too.
Yeah.
Um, and when Goku finally got there, I mean, it took forever for him to get to Namek, but he finally did. Um, and not to mention, I think he was in the well, no, actually, Vegeta was in the chamber for a while, recouping from his fight, but Goku was in it as well, if I remember right,
Yeah,
for a
he
long
was.
time. But that was one thing that Dragon Ball Z did was they really drug out a lot of stuff. But if you're a true fan, you're still in it. I mean, I was totally in it the whole series. I'm not sure. I just started watching Dragon Ball Z Kai. I'm giving it a chance. Um, Tiffany Vollmer no longer doing the voice of Bulma though. That is killer for me. I mean, that is huge. I it's hard for me to get into it when it's a different Bulma.
Yeah, for me, I have so many memories of, the original cast that I couldn't possibly deal with that. I can't give it a chance. I mean, the entire story is told in the original format, and that's how I'm going to watch it. And honestly, I feel like Kai is almost for the newer, younger generation. They want to get right to the battles. They don't want to know the storylines. They don't want to see the struggle of gaining power level. I mean, you know, to me, that's what Dragon Ball Z
Is all about.
is all about. It's what's kept my interest all these years. When I was a kid, maybe it was, oh, it's cool, it's got explosions and fighting but nowadays, being an adult, I find it inspiring,
It really is.
who can say that Goku is not one of the most inspiring characters that has ever been created, what I mean by that is Goku, he's an alien from a species that all they do is kill and murder and take over planets. But he's such a good spirit or a good soul that he ends up saving the Earth. Like, how many times in the show does he save Earth? Like, hundreds of times,
Yeah, countless.
Yeah. And he's just, if you're a DBZ fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Goku just has this light-hearted way about him. Like he'll get his butt kicked, you know, twice over, and then just want to eat afterwards and
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah, he'll kind of laugh about it and then get back up and be like, "Oh, you're a wonderful opponent. Thank you so much for fighting me." But so going from the start with the Saiyan saga, um, as Carl just said, Goku is an alien. He is a Saiyan, and they came down to Earth. Goku was originally programmed in his mind, like he was brainwashed to where he needed to take over Earth and kill everyone. And the Saiyans, they would capture planets to sell them. So yeah, Raditz turns out to be Goku's older brother, and he comes to Earth looking for Goku, and he's like Kakarot, which is Goku's other his Saiyan name. Um, I skipped a part though. Goku hits his head when he gets to Earth and totally wipes out his memory, and that's how his good nature takes over, like Carl said, and he becomes Goku, the hero to his heart. And so Raditz shows up, and he's like, "Why haven't you, killed everyone on Earth and taken over?" And by this time, Goku has a son, and he's pretty much rooted in Earth, and he kind of that's the point where everything starts. He starts defending the Earth. And let's talk about the art style starting out. Akira Toriyama actually said he was kind of embarrassed by how poor the art quality looked at that point in the series, and and I can agree to an extent, but I think that also it shows the progression of the art and of the TV show, and as Goku grows older and matures, as does the artwork.
I absolutely agree. And the creator, I can see where he would be embarrassed in the beginning because, he's created this masterpiece of, an epic, really, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely.
And people aren't giving it the kind of respect that it needs, really, if you ask me. Because, in an animation studio, especially in those times, what it would have been like, hundreds of guys just drawing frame after frame,
Yeah, exactly.
and people weren't respecting his artwork. But I think what once they realized that what they had was golden, they started to respect the fact that they needed to put effort into it. And you can definitely see that in the show. One thing that I wanted to bring up is it seems like the ending of Dragon Ball is better quality than the beginning of DBZ, and then DBZ starts to become better quality than Dragon Ball ever was.
Yeah, and I think one of the other interesting aspects is that at the end of Dragon Ball, Piccolo is, I almost called him a heel. That's pro wrestling terminology. He's a bad guy. Piccolo's a bad guy at the end of Dragon Ball. And by the time that the fight with Raditz is over, Piccolo's kind of started to become a good guy just because of Goku's son Gohan and training him. And Goku sacrifices his life to kill Raditz and save the planet. And I think Piccolo, on a certain level, probably respected that, but he still at this point is kind of against Goku. He's like, well, after we defeat these Saiyans, you're next, and all this stuff. The classic deal, kind of like with Vegeta. He was always like, after we beat this guy, you're mine, Kakarot, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so this leads to the introduction of Vegeta and Nappa, and they're the other two Saiyans who come down. Raditz's backup essentially, and this is after Goku has been killed, and he goes. And let's touch on this too. The afterlife in Dragon Ball Z. I really like it quite a bit, and there's even a hell in Dragon Ball Z. I mean, in the American edited version for Cartoon Network, they called it HFIL, the Home for Infinite Losers. And I thought that was a great name,
Yeah.
the Home for Infinite Losers. But in the unedited version, it's called Hell, and HELL. And there were quite a few variations in the edited and non-edited because I think Akira kind of had a sense of humor to where Hercule, his last name was Satan, and in the American version, we edited it down and we only called him by his first name, Hercule. And the fans would chant Hercule, Hercule, and in the unedited version, the fans would chant Satan, Satan,
Yeah.
Satan.
Yeah, it's definitely a cultural difference if I ever heard one.
Yeah, definitely. So that was one of the funny things between the editing. But anyway, back to where I was going with that. Vegeta and Nappa come down, and Nappa, he gets killed off fairly early. But Vegeta is this character that starts out evil, but fans will grow to love him. I mean, he becomes my favorite character. Oh, it's hard because he's like my favorite character, but then Goku is also like my favorite character. I mean, how can you not love Goku? And I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic between the two. I'm talking too much. I need to let you jump
Oh
in
no,
here, but
no, you're saying very interesting things, and you're making me, go back to the glory days where,
yeah, if you
everybody was watching this show. I mean, chances are if you're from like the ages 30 to 21, you probably know what DBZ is already. You
or
know,
you should at least.
yeah, if you're not a loser, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you listen to this podcast and don't watch Dragon Ball Z, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, not to alienate my listeners or anything. Um,
What he means is watch the show. It's a great show.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I sound like Skylar all of a sudden. Go screw yourself if you don't like Dragon Ball Z. But yeah. So anyway, they have the Saiyan saga, and that ends pretty much with Vegeta. But then moving on, they go to the planet Namek because Frieza is this alien tyrant. Frieza ends up killing the Saiyans, all of them. He blows up their planet, and so Goku and the gang they have to stop Frieza before he comes and destroys their planet, Earth, next. So they all head to Namek, and there's this huge sequence there and all this stuff. And Vegeta and Goku team up for the first time, and for me that was a really great moment in time because Vegeta ends up getting killed by Frieza, and Goku has the respect to scoop him up off the battlefield and carry him over. And I think and they bury him. They actually did bury him, and it's just one of those moments where it's the first time when you see how good Goku is to where he's actually um, helping or he's honoring the bad guy's death. I mean, they were working together, and Vegeta would have stabbed him in the back in a minute, but that just shows you how good Goku is. I mean, what were your thoughts at that point in the series on the different characters? I mean, I know you jumped in right at the Frieza saga, so you probably at that point. I mean, I don't. Did you watch the whole series straight from Frieza, or did you go back and?
I went back and luckily when this was probably when I was in junior high when I started getting into it, and luckily I had some friends that had been in it from the beginning, so they had some episodes recorded on the VHS, if you all can believe that.
Oh
you
yeah,
know and so I watched them from the beginning, but in terms of Vegeta, I mean, he's one of my favorite characters too, and it's he's such a complex character in terms of when he first shows up. He's like a royal class of the Saiyan, and he's very arrogant and evil.
right. He's the prince of all Saiyans. His father was King Vegeta.
But I think what people like about him so much is because when they see him, they see Goku inside of him. Because in many ways, they have the same motivations in the
Yeah.
character plot. Goku wants to fight people to get stronger, and so does Vegeta. It's just Vegeta's more of an a-hole about it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think some of that is due to his sense of pride and honor. Maybe that's kind of where the Japanese culture ties in. Is Vegeta can't hardly stand to lose, and I mean he's huge into the honor and pride. And a young adult, kind of growing up with that, that kind of instilled that sense of pride in me as well. I was like, I need to be more like Vegeta, and have this sort of pride and
Well, I think another reason people like Vegeta so much, and maybe this is the case for you too, as the show progresses, his motivations start to change. He meets a human woman and has children with them, and he makes Earth his home, and when there's all these things coming to threaten and destroy the Earth, he pretends to be, the bad guy still with the way he talks, but with the things that he does, his actions speak louder than his words, and I think that's why Vegeta is the character that people like, you know, hate to love to hate, and it's just
yeah,
complicated character.
they love to root for the bad guy turned good. Just like Daryl in The Walking Dead. He starts out as kind of a bad guy, gray area character. Then he turns good, and now look at him, he's a fan favorite. And I mean, it's almost the same with Vegeta. People love it when the bad guy turns into the hero.
I'd say that's a perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's that idea that's just so intriguing to people. Yeah, so getting back on the storyline here, um, Goku ends up having this epic battle with Frieza, and in the end, um, Frieza's beaten, cut in half. I mean, this was one of the bloodiest scenes in all of anime and
Well,
manga.
let me just cut you off real quick. Don't forget about the whole Super Saiyan thing, because that's like one
Oh
of the
yeah,
biggest parts of the whole show. That's You know,
Yeah, let's focus on that. Actually, what happens is, do you want to tell the story? Or do you want me to?
go right ahead. Just don't forget about Krillin. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, that's your favorite part when Krillin gets blown to bits.
Well, it's my favorite big part because of how mad Goku gets.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
epic, you
And
know.
I'm not even exaggerating. This may sound silly, but every time I watch that scene and the original scene with the original music, when Goku turns Super Saiyan, I just get tingly all over. You know, it's just like it's such an epic moment. And what happens is Goku thinks that he kills Frieza with the Spirit Bomb, and it turns out Frieza comes back and he's really pissed off. And he gets Krillin and raises him up in the air and then just literally crushes him, like disintegrates Krillin. And Goku just goes over the edge. And just the way he spoke, he's like, Frieza. And he's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. You'd have to watch it, but he's just so mad. And you can see him just like shaking. And then like these lightning bolts come down. And I remember reading in this magazine, there was a Dragon Ball Z magazine for a while. And it talked about the qualifications to be a Super Saiyan. And the Super Saiyan was always a thing of legend as far as the Saiyans were concerned. And Vegeta at one point thought he was a Super Saiyan, but he actually had not made that ascension yet. But the qualifications were like being pure of heart, having a certain power level, and having a certain amount of emotion involved in it. And Goku had this motivation after Krillin got killed. I mean, he needed to get stronger and end Frieza. And you can see him; he's like shaking. These lightning bolts come down from the sky, and the original music was amazing. They re-edited and used some different music, and it took a lot away from the scene. But with the original music, and the way Goku was, and you could see him kind of like looking down, and his eyes go white, and he starts kind of bucking his head back as this insane amount of power is just like surging through his body, and you can see his hair start to flash like this golden yellow. And when he finally transforms, I mean, he beats Frieza into the ground, or into the air as they have the aerial combat as well. But yeah, it was just this such an emotional scene, and I've never watched a movie or anime or anything that has ever even really scratched the surface on that level of intensity and emotion that was in that one scene. And even in the rest of Dragon Ball Z, I never came across that
No,
again.
never. Maybe the closest was when Gohan was defeating Cell.
Yeah,
But, like, I completely agree with you. That scene is just so inspiring. It's the epicenter of the entire show. Really, before that scene, I think Dragon Ball didn't know that it was going to be successful.
yeah. That I mean, if the show wasn't already made, that made the show.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
um,
you could debate all day if it had more fans before that episode or after, but I know for me, that episode was just like, oh yeah, this is something I want to watch.
yeah, exactly. And you would think that when Goku went Super Saiyan, you could say, "Oh man, I guess this is the end of the series. He's finally made it to that level. He's finally become Super Saiyan." But no, they took it even further. I mean, there's other levels: Super Saiyan level 2, Ultra Super Saiyan. There is Super Saiyan 3, Mystic Saiyan, which is what Gohan was for a while. Then Super Saiyan 4, but that's in GT. And then there's also now, if you haven't seen the new movie, definitely check it out. You can find it online somewhere. Super Saiyan God, and if there was anyone fit to be Super Saiyan God, there's only one guy, and that's Goku. But anyway, so
And great production value on that, by the way.
yeah, they really did, with the shading and the animation. I mean, they didn't alter it; they just improved it.
Yeah,
That was really important. And I'm really hoping for an English dub. I mean, I know Fox isn't listening to this, but Fox, damn it, get rid of the rights and give it to Funimation. We need the cast from Dragon Ball Z to do this. We don't need another Dragon Ball Evolution. Anyway, um, yeah. So moving on, the Goku has Frieza beaten. Frieza's cut in half, and Frieza is begging Goku. He's like, I just need a little bit of energy. Please just help me to survive this. And I promise I'll change my ways and all this stuff. And Goku, being, ever merciful, turns around and he's like, okay, here's some energy. And he turns around and he blasts him and gives him this little amount of energy. And what does Frieza do? He creates this disc thing above him and tries to, send it at Goku. And Goku, this is another really emotional moment. Is Goku turns around and he sees what's happening and he's like, "You fool!" and he just blasts the blast. He blasts the blast. You know what I'm saying? He shoots the blast with an energy wave and hits Frieza and knocks him out. And then he tries to escape the planet. And Namek is so destroyed at this point. I mean, volcanoes are erupting, stuff's in the sky, and he's just trying to find this ship. And he finally finds a ship to escape. And then he's like, you see him frantically trying to press these buttons and get the ship activated before it falls into the lava. And that was pretty much the last scene. And Vegeta and everybody else, thanks to the Dragon Balls, they get transported back to Earth. So this was another interesting part of the series is where, you've almost got this moment where Vegeta and Piccolo, they're the two strongest left right now, and it's up to them to protect the Earth. Yeah, I mean, a few little filler things happen right at that point in time, but then we start moving into the Android Saga.
Yeah.
And I'll let you go through kind of what you remember. I know that's one of your favorite scenes is when Goku or when Vegeta turns Super Saiyan, and I'll let you kind of explain what happens from this point. Actually, hold on. We're coming up at the end of this episode. I've just decided we're going to turn this into a two-parter. The series deserves it. Let's just face it.
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode. We're going to come back with a part 2 very shortly after this. And stay tuned for that, and we will continue our discussion on Dragon Ball Z.